Welcome to the world of Doctor Who, the Time Lord that explores the galaxy while on his time-traveling adventures. Welcome to the world of the longest-running science fiction series in history, with your co-hosts Susan Backstrom, David Grunt, Matthew Rose, Tom Diamond, and Craig Johnson. And they explore the classic series from its humble beginnings in 1963 and tracking through time to every episode up to the current day. This is the Doctor Who retrospective, where a legend will never die.
Welcome to Literature Lessons Podcast. In this Doctor Who week, we'll be covering the Daleks. And of course, while we're covering the Daleks, I'll be covering the first 4 episodes, which will be episode number 1, which is Dead Planet, number 2, which is Survivors, number 3, which is The Escape, and number 4, The Ambush. And these all aired on December 21st of December, 1963 to the 1st of February, 1964. And before we get started, let's find out who's with us. We got Craig Johnson with us. Hello, Craig.
Hello from East Finchley, everybody.
And we got David Grant with us. Hello, David.
Hello there, Keith. Hello there, Craig.
Hello.
Also in East Finchley, although there is no Daleks here at the moment. Or maybe on the Northern Line, I'm not quite sure.
And Matthew Rose may be with us. It all depends if the Daleks let him get his fish and chips on time. So we'll wait to see if he appears. So, before we go any further, let's find out what we've been up to. Starting with you, Craig. What have you been up to since last time we spoke to you?
I've been taking down the exhibition at Lauderdale House. That's finished now, but you can see if you want to catch up on the artwork or didn't get to see it, I'm going to be updating my website, Craig's World, on Etsy. If you search for the shop Craig's World, you can check out my work there, or you can check out my links on craigsworld.org. I've got different art things going on and stuff like that. I'm still binge watching Chucky, so I'm up to season of Chucky at the moment.
Yeah.
And I'm halfway through Game of Thrones the new season. I'm on season 6.
Oh, the Thing of Dragons or whatever it's called.
House of the Dragon, yeah.
House of Dragons.
Yeah.
And I'm reading Gone Girl for our Dark America season.
Yes.
So I'm going to have to watch the movie soon with David too.
Yes.
It's a brilliant book. If anyone hasn't read it, I can't put it down. It's been really enthralling. So yeah, check it out.
Yeah.
And what about yourself, David? What have you been up to?
Yeah. But let's say Craig and I had the exhibition at Lauderdale House. It was a success because it's like, even though we didn't, Craig's mum did sell some photos, but the thing was, there was so many applicants, to be chosen out of that. And for me anyway, it's like being a novice. I'm not really sort of
it was David's first
exhibition,
public exhibition.
So that was really lovely,
was good.
to get chosen,
Yeah.
And
I thought David's first exhibition was in the town square in front of that woman. No, never mind.
It was when I opened up my jacket. Yeah, that's right.
He's an exhibitionist. You got to watch this one.
Yeah. I don't intend to put that on the CV anymore. Yeah. But yeah, but that was apart from that, I've actually started a new song, being a musician, and it's called Strawberry Girl. So it's quite nice. Yeah, that's coming together nicely. And the usual, doing a bit of work, pretend to be an exhibitionist and stuff like that. Actually, I'm off to Exhibition Park right after this podcast to join the other exhibitionists. I've been a novice. What have you been up to? Keith?
We did the Batman, which is out now. So taped that on Friday. I've been watching some interesting films on Shudder. I watched a thing called Sissy, which is a very good film. I highly recommend it on Shudder. About a girl who's social media and who's bullied and ends up at a party with with her bully, and that all goes horrendously wrong. And so that was quite good. I watched The Watcher, which is based on a true story, which is on Netflix, which is an 8-part series about these people who move into the house and they keep getting these weird letters and all this weird stuff keeps happening to them.
Oh yeah.
So it's quite good. I mean, it's based on a true story, but I think the word that we're looking for is based loosely on a true story, because I did look at the real story after that. And then I went down the serial killer wormhole, and I watched Jeffrey Dahmer tapes and the John Wayne Gacy tapes, and I just
I watched the Candyman and
Candyman,
the Candyman and the Clown.
Oh yeah,
the John Wayne Gacy thing. There's like a Candyman the Clown documentary as well.
Oh, okay.
It's quite
freaky. I mean, I was just given a book called The Life and Times of John Wayne Gacy, written by an author, done to review, which the review will be out this week. So I finished that. So I kind of went down that serial killer wormhole, which is interesting. I quite like all that. I like serial killers. I'd be one, but if it's just a lot of hard work to be a serial killer.
I
watch body, and,
it's the clearing up, DNA.
It's like in the 70s, it's so much easier.
Just easier. Yeah.
Modern technology has taken away my dream. But another good film on Shudder is Deathstream, which I highly recommend, which is about a social media influencer who has a YouTube channel, does something stupid, has to cry and make amends to the people, like what happens on YouTube, and then he decides to spend some time in a haunted house, which is really fun. I suggest giving that one a try. And Dario Argento's new movie, who hasn't done a film for probably a good 12-15 years, has come out with a new one on Shudder called Dark Eyes, which is a new Italian Giallo film. So highly recommend that as well. But other than that, I worked and I'm doing Doctor Who.
Yes.
Oh, I watched Maxine on Channel 5. It was a 3-part series based on the killers of Ian Huntley and Maxine Carr.
Oh, flipping it! Yeah,
that was really interesting. It was really good.
Setting, man,
yeah. If you like serial child killing programs.
Well, when they did the sensational exhibition way back in the mid 90s, there was one painting that everyone. Well, actually, it was in the Standard. Asking for it to be taken down. There actually was children's handprints that, when you step back, it made the image of Mara Hindley.
I saw that.
You remember that, Keith? Yeah.
I went to that exhibition actually.
Yeah, I mean the rest of the show was great. I mean, the whole thing was amazing. Like, just to see some of the old pop art stuff and the new stuff, it was great.
Yeah. Remember the mannequins in a circle with penises coming out of their mouths. So
them. The two brothers that do these strange, reenactments of, they're quite odd. Yeah, they were Nike shoes. I remember that. Yeah, that's right.
There's a Picasso exhibition coming.
Yeah, that's right. That sounds interesting. I want to see that.
With his new penis head.
Dickhead.
Yeah.
Oh, you would. Yeah.
Go see it now before the tomato soup comes out. So.
Yeah. I mean, what was it? Why throw it at the Van Gogh painting? I don't get that one.
I don't know.
Why
don't they? I don't understand why they're not working.
Yeah, exactly.
This is because you can't pay our fuel bills. Like, well, you might want to get a job. That might help.
Yeah, it might help. It might take some of your time up. Yeah. But bloody hell, man.
Yeah.
No, it's back in the 60s, somebody slashed a few Dali paintings. They're not really like anti something. They're just jealous, man, because they didn't think of the idea. And why slash a Dali? It's just genius. It's beautiful.
Yeah, I don't understand the
Dali was a Dalek.
The synthetic behind it all. If you want people to listen to your cause, I think that's the wrong way of doing it, because all you do is you look at these people and go, you're just a dick.
Yeah, you are. Yeah, it's anti-promotion. It's like really bad. Yeah,
it's like that one that they're like dumping all the milk out at the grocery store and they're throwing it on the floor. It's about workers' rights. It's like, I don't understand it, because now they poured all this milk on the ground and stuff like this. Some minimum wage person's gonna have to mop that up.
So it defeats the whole Not only is it stupid, it defeats the object, and it's a waste of food, you know.
Then they'll repackage it.
Yeah, as
Sell it reduced.
as Mentos.
Yeah.
You know, you can put inside a Coke bottle and explode it. Yeah.
So I'm not quite sure and all that sort of stuff. I mean, I think it's people have the right to protest. I just think that they should do it a bit more intelligently.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. You know, I mean,
yeah.
No.
But I always find that everyone who used to protest back in their 20s and end up being yuppies and they're always like middle class people anyway. I think they got mommy and daddy paying for everything. So
exactly. No, the thing is, I mean, you know, I know you. Well, you can be rebellious all your life, you know. You have to mean it, you know. If it's just a fad or it's like something just to grab attention. There was a great, I remember years ago, and it's like I had a big fur coat, big lady's fur coat, and when my hair was long in a 70s band, and I walked out the door and the old man said to me, "Why are you wearing that coat?" And I said, "Yeah, because I'm an individual." He says, "Yeah, but all your friends wear the same thing." So, you know, kind of defeated the object, you know. So there you go. Choice of individuality is a hard one.
I remember watching this movie, it had Jo Beth Williams from Poltergeist in it.
Oh,
and
yeah.
She's wearing this fur coat. She gets out of the car and someone's screaming at her, "Do you know how many animals they had to kill to make that coat?" And she turns around and she goes, "You know how many men I had to fuck to get this coat?"
Oh, bloody hell.
So it's just like, oh.
That's a good comeback. I like that one.
So, saying that, what we're going to do is cut the synopsis of Doctor Who, The Daleks, Part 1, and we'll be right back after that. There's a synopsis for Doctor Who, The Daleks, Part 1, airing the 21st of December, 1963 to the 1st of February, 1964, including episodes 1 through 4, which include the titles The Dead Planet, The Survivors, The Escape, The Ambush. The TARDIS lands in a petrified jungle, where the First Doctor tries to determine their position by taking a reading of the stars. He insists they explore a futuristic city they spot beyond the forest, but Ian Charleston and Barbara Wright are not convinced. In the forest, someone touches Susan Foreman's shoulder. The Doctor does not believe her. Later, a box of vials is found outside the TARDIS. The Doctor claims the fluid link of the TARDIS is running low on mercury, a ruse he later admits to, forcing the crew to travel to the city in search of more mercury. Barbara becomes separated from her colleagues in the city and is threatened by an unseen creature with a metal arm. Before long, the entire crew is captured by unseen creatures operating tank-like machines, the Daleks. Susan is eventually sent to retrieve anti-radiation drugs from the TARDIS after the Doctor realizes this is what the box contained. Susan encounters a second species, the Thals, who used to be at war with the Daleks. The Thal who left the drugs reveals he encountered her in the forest. Susan attempts to broker peace between the two groups, and while it appears to work, the Daleks eventually betray the Thals, opening fire on them at which was supposed to be a peaceful exchange of food. The Daleks attempt using the anti-radiation drugs, but discover that they are fatal to Daleks. They conclude that Daleks need radiation to survive and decide to bombard the atmosphere with more radiation. And that was the synopsis for The Daleks, Part 1, Episodes 1 through 4. Now back to the show. Hello, welcome back to the Literature License Podcast. We're discussing Doctor Who, The Daleks, Part 1. And starting with you, David, what are your thoughts of these episodes?
Right. Okay. Well, you know, I mean, we were just chatting before, like with Craig and Keith about this. Like, it was the
you remember it, don't you?
I do. I
saw it live.
You know, it's like the old classic, like, you know, everybody was at the first U2 gig or something like that. You know, I actually was 7 years old, 21st of December, 1963. And of course, it actually been building up. Now I think
Did you hide behind the sofa?
I did indeed. We actually hired a sofa for the occasion, a big one. No, but I remember sort of like it came. It was just there'd never been anything like that on TV at all. So it's totally revolutionary. Verity Lambert's genius. All the people involved in the show is fantastic. But the thing is that the thing that really stuck in my mind was like it was like a minimalistic thing. With it being black and white also. So it was like with the lack of color, you had to sort of use your imagination. And it did engage with your imagination. All the series was beautiful. All that first series was beautiful, And William Hartnell, iconic, And to use a police box, it was like just so funny, I
didn't realize he wore a wig as well.
I didn't know that. I thought it was his
wig.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it really stuck in my mind because like over the next couple of weeks, all we talked about at school was Doctor Who. It became, the vocabulary of our time, And sci-fi was born, visual sci-fi was born. Yeah.
Wow.
What do you think, Craig?
What about yourself, Craig? What are your thoughts on it?
I really liked it. I mean, it's iconic.
It is iconic, yeah.
But there was this sense of a foreboding. They did a simple one key on the piano, and it was like it reminded me of the film Dunkirk, where you just sense something dangerous and unnerving is coming, something alien. Because they think they're in a petrified forest. Well, they are in a petrified forest, but they don't realize they're on the planet Scarrow, which was beautifully done as well by the special effects team. It looked really realistic and vast, and what David said about being minimal, that comes across. But the only is it a contingency? No, continuity.
Continuity.
When the TARDIS doors opened, they had hexagons on the inside.
Yeah.
So if they opened outwards, it wouldn't have worked because it should say police for public use only and have the St John ambulance on the front. That's the only gripe I've got with it, really. Because I was like, doesn't make sense unless there's double doors that they walked into. I like the whole dynamic between Ian and Barbara. I'd love there to have explored more with his granddaughter, even in the current series, to include her or talk about her, because she's really intriguing. She's obviously a Time Lord if she's a relative of his, but it's not mentioned.
Why did they drop that? Because they didn't really continue with her story. She is a Time Lord, as you say.
Didn't they have problems with her on set or something? So don't they replace her at some point? In the middle of the series. Maybe. Did she last all the way through the series? I think you guys were saying last episode, I think that she gets replaced by someone else, doesn't she? In the middle of this.
She does,
block. So maybe I mean, I don't remember any of the characters' names, but I do I mean there's Ebenezer Who. And then there's Chrissy Hines, his granddaughter, because she looks like Chrissy Hines. Patricia Rutledge, the teacher. And
Hagrid.
But
and 60 single teacher dude, sort of
when they first see the Daleks, and you have that the special effect, the sound effects team did a really good job. It was just simple like clashes of sound. So when the Doctor, Susan, and they all walk into the city, and then they're surrounded by Daleks, and you've got that high-pitched shudder sound. That was quite good. And then also Ian tries to leg it, and he gets his legs anesthetized or paralyzed by the Daleks, and that's when you realize that these are dangerous. They can paralyze your legs, and if they do it a second time, then they kill you, which is unusual because normally they'll say exterminate and you're just dead. So they seem to show some sort of humanity in the first ever one, but they scrapped that and just had them killing everyone after this. And obviously Terry Nation, he was he had a lot of military background in his family,
right?
So he did base obviously the Daleks on the SS and the Nazis,
okay,
as this oppressive race of beings. And I think Daleks, I heard that Dalek is an anagram of Khaled, which is the race from which they evolved.
Ah,
And it also means a far and distant thing in Serbo-Croat.
wow. I didn't realize it went that deep with the, yeah. Because Dalek, it actually, it's funny, it did sound like an anagram.
And you see that some of my favorite scenes was when Barbara was there, and then suddenly you just see the eye stalk of the Dalek coming towards her, and she screams. And that's the first cliffhanger. I thought, wow, that's so cool.
That's right. Through like the fish eye.
It must
of the
have been
Dalek.
really freaky for you guys in the 60s to have seen that, because obviously we're conditioned. We've had Evil Dead, for example. We're pretty much immune now to.
You've been immersed in a lot of
TV.
shock, over the years, But
I don't understand why they're not losing their hair, though. I mean, they get all this radiation. They land on the planet. It's full of radiation. Everything's stoned, which is quite good. But they're kind of running through.
The Thals left them the medication, though. That's what, because I got confused, thinking, why are they not? Surely this can't be good if the radiation's at danger levels. But then I realized the Thals left medication for them to take.
Yeah, but like you said,
but they spent a long time. I mean, Susan had to go running back and forth before she got the medication, didn't she?
Yeah.
Chrissy Hines did, and I would love to see when she got back, Patricia Rutledge like having half her beehive gone.
No,
it's Keith's right. It's like all the Thals had a beautiful head of hair. They all look like sort of a David Bowie Heroes period,
Tristan Carey did the music for it.
Right.
And it was directed by Christopher Barry and Richard Martin.
But I mean, I did like the. It's very intriguing. I do like the storyline. I think they're still finding their pacing as well about how they're going to pace it and stuff like this. And
true.
This is long before you had to catch it live. If you didn't catch it live, that was it. You missed it. And if you missed it, then
you missed it.
You might lose some of what's going on. So so I understand that. I mean, especially covering Dark Shadows that we did as well. Now that we're finishing up on that, I know that pacing is everything. Sometimes they'll either go too fast or too slow. So I think the pacing is better than the first one, though. When they do come across the humanoids or the human people on there, and they're running around in their little underwear and shower curtains, and I just it's like, okay, it's like, put this on, this will keep you warm. This is like what? And a radiated it's like, are you cold or a radiated
there was a lot of climbing going on during the ambush as well, which I thought it got a bit tedious, monotonous when I wanted something more to happen. But Raymond Cusick designed the Daleks.
He designed the Dalek.
It's his baby.
Wow, it is iconic.
And he based them on pepper pots from the
from
a restaurant table. That's the original. The original design was like 2 pepper pots with claws.
Right.
Well, the shower curtain that they're wearing around their shoulders. That's based on that's based on
the Daleks.
The Daleks.
Oh, the Daleks. Okay.
No, the Thals made it to IKEA. Got the shower curtain.
I thought it was interesting that when they're trying to subdue one of the Daleks, they grabbed it by its penis and were swinging it around. That was quite interesting, by its plunger penis thing. Like, you got Patricia Rutledge there, like just holding on to it like for dear life. Like, oh my God, it's gonna inseminate me.
I thought maybe the Daleks were
Ridley Scott was supposed to be do the designing.
Yeah,
originally.
That's right. That's right.
He was Ridley Scott.
He went on to do big things.
He was about 12 at the time, I think.
I don't see that. Oh. Well, I guess he would be, actually, because I don't think he'd been in his 20s in 64, would he? Because he's not that old. That would make him like 80 now.
Yeah.
The lights of the Daleks was Christmas tree lights covered with ping pong balls when they were operated by an actor inside.
Ah, okay, right. No, I mean the whole thing was iconic. Just
a
different image. Yeah.
I mean, I like the the Daleks design and stuff like this.
I
do question the blonde hair helmets that the aliens on the planet had.
The stalls. Yeah.
I'm just like, oh, look at you. It's like, ooh, I just got off. I just got off of a beach movie with a Netflix Avalon. Yay. I'm gonna go surfing with the Beach Boys later, man. Yeah, man.
Well, all the stalls had been to Vidal Sassoon, and then they went to Mary Corn for the makeup. I remember that bit. But we used to pretend to be Daleks. We used to put like a saucepan on your head, with the handle sticking out, so you look like a Dalek.
Well, the other humanoids. There's a lot of side boobing going on with some of the guys on that and the segment as well.
I remember when Remembrance of the Daleks was shown in 1988, and I went to school the next day and was pretending to be a Dalek in the playground with all my mates.
Yeah.
So
it's brilliant. Little boys that want to be aeroplanes or Daleks. And being a bit of a space nut, I wanted to be a Dalek.
Matthew Rose is joining us. Hello, Matthew. What are your thoughts of these episodes of the Daleks?
Good evening, good morning, got your time zones. Hello. But first of all, sorry for the delay. I just had to go get dinner. And I saw, to go on with that quickly before we started the episode, I was in the chip shop and a little kid had like a whisk, and I just thought the Daleks instantly. No, these episodes, I think personally, because I was rewatching them today for the first time in a while, and without them, I don't think Doctor Who would have been here nearly 60 years old without the Daleks, because they are so ingrained in pop culture now. They appear at nearly every convention. They appear in nearly every TV or film. It's as iconic as the blue box and the Doctor. Yeah. Those are the three things you associate with the show. So for the episodes, it's when the crew, I think, are starting to come together a lot more, of the Doctor, Susan, Ian and Barbara. He is a crafty individual in this story. He set the whole thing up because he didn't want them to leave. He damaged his own console, like the weasel he was, just so he could explore the city.
That's right. Yeah.
It's basically the Doctor's fault that he's got his greatest enemies, the Daleks, all because of his curiosity.
And Ian and Barbara just resent him and are like, I'm sure it's time he was served up some of his own medicine.
Well, he did get the radiation.
They're getting Stockholm syndrome.
Well,
Sorry, go on.
I mean, Dr. Ebenezer Who is just, God, he's a grumpy old man, isn't he?
He's a grumpy old sod.
He's like a typical granddad, I guess, I could be a granddad, but I guess as you get older, things don't become more clarified. It's more, you just get really peed off everything, And
he's as bitter as Grandpa Simpson. So
if he was a real person, he'd be arrested for kidnapping because he's still holding the teachers hostage at this point.
You're right. Yeah, bloody hell, you're right. Yeah. Holding two teachers in a telephone box.
Ofsted wouldn't be very happy.
It's a bit of a felony,
we do get Patricia Rutledge, and because of her shoe fetish, she was able to make mud with a little bit of spit.
Well, I noticed Susan was wearing flats.
Yeah.
Because she climbed up a tree at some point. I thought, how the hell did she get up a tree with high heels on? But in any other situation, she would have tripped over a twig and broken her ankle.
Possibly, yeah.
But now she's up a tree.
I thought
she was always wearing trainers, though, isn't she? Chrissy Hines or Susan or whatever her name is.
Early Sue.
For a 7-episode arc that this was, because it's all basically one story. Well, for me, it played to everybody's strengths, because Susan, she had to go back to the TARDIS on her own, who's petrified on this alien world, and she's still screaming. She does the usual, but it really highlights how strong of an actress Carolyn Ford is in the Daleks, because you get to see that innocence of an alien on an alien world who doesn't know what she's doing without her grandfather to guide her.
Yeah, and a petrified world as well, of all things.
That lizard.
I like that one scene where she goes, "Oh, look at this flower! Like, isn't it beautiful?" And then they pick up another one, just like crumbled it. Okay,
Yeah, bloody hell! Really crap horticulturists.
And it's got some amazing cliffhangers, like the very first episode with Barbara, because when she's like screaming and they left it ambiguous what that was, because the next week is when they reveal what the Daleks are, and people found out what pop culture meant from the very beginning with this story of the Daleks.
My favorite thing is the doors in the cells. I love the way those doors open up that way, and then they close down in that half circle thing. And that gave us something else. But another thing I didn't quite understand with the whole Dalek thing is, so basically they capture the Dalek, they grab a hold of its plunger and wheel it around onto the shower curtain. And why can't it move? Why can't they move? Is that because the floor is like electrical, magnetic?
Because of the budget at the time, the Dalek props were basically people inside them on little bicycles, like wheels, so they had to ride them.
And they were dancers.
But I'm wondering is, as far as the Daleks are concerned, is the floor supposed to be metal, and it's kind of like
this
like
is the
bumper cars. They travel by the electric.
Very basic ones, because I think after this encounter they start adapting them to move everywhere. I think they were restricted here on Skaro, and then they adapted them as each episode went on for them.
What did they do about the stairs?
Oh, that's in Remembrance, which Craig mentions. That actually nearly killed them because the Dalek prop was so heavy that it nearly fell backwards on them.
The Dead Planet got 6.9 million viewers, and then by The Rescue, episode 7, it was at 10.4 million viewers.
Yeah, because it's such a strong story, because it managed to not only have the Doctor, Susan and Barbara in such great terror, and it's also building the chemistry more with the cast, as well as the guest cast, the menace. It's like each episode was to highlight the strength of the actors weekly.
I mean, I prefer this over the prehistoric man thing, the man story.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just it's just too many unibrows in that. I mean, because I came on and I didn't see those episodes, because one of the guest hosts didn't show up, so I said, sure, I hope I'll come on. And so, and I've actually, while we were recording, I actually downloaded BritBox and got a membership to it, and then after we finished, I did watch those episodes, sort of thing. There's a lot that I liked about it, but it's kind of like there's kind of a disjointedness, and I have to say with these set of episodes, these first 4, everything seems to be a bit more organized as far as the storytelling goes.
Because as we said, the first one was a complete disaster. And they had to reshoot it because there's a pilot version, and the one that went out just for the first episode, because the doors kept opening, people were falling over. It wasn't great for the first time.
Yeah.
and we did have prehistoric man speaking in very proper English accent. So
that's what I meant. It was like not the usual. That's what threw me. I thought it'd be like you fire and all that, like how everyone does it, and they're like, "Hello, how you doing? Yes, okay, people.
I'd like to make some fire. Can you help me, please?" Oh, sure. Just rub 2 sticks together. I'm sure we can do it.
The secret is to bang the rocks together.
I will be a leader. Oh, jolly good. And I'm sorry for everyone that I just massacred the English dialect for y'all.
I know, you've done a better job than Dick Van Dyke.
Yeah, well, my British accent does sound more like Dick Van Dyke if I let it. So, but yeah, I found it was quite interesting. So basically, do we find out why the whole planet's radiated? Do they
Craig,
or does that come in later episodes, the ones that we're not covering now?
Oh, I'm trying to remember now. But I think it's within the story. I think it was the Daleks who did it themselves because they was at war with the Fowls, and that was a side effect from it.
Oh,
okay. So they kind of like some kind of atomic war weapon, I guess. And
that's it. That's exactly what happened. It was an atomic war trying to blow them off the planet.
Right. Wow.
And because of their blonde helmet hair, they were able to radiate the radiation off them, so they lived.
Yeah. I've never heard a fowl described with blonde helmets. I'm gonna have to use that.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Blonde helmet hair.
Oh, sorry, I thought Craig had fallen over.
I mean, not to be, there's a bit of gay subtext going on here, especially like you got the blonde one helping him out, and you got the one on the side going, "Are you sure you want to help them?" It's like, what? And it's like, and I don't know. I found that scene kind of weird because you got like Susan and hippie chick and then blonde helmet guy, and then basically they're having this conversation, and every once in a while it's like the camera cuts to this other guy. He's like looking at him like, "Are you sure?" And like really subjectively over at the one guy. It's like it's almost like he's not on the set, and it's only like after that scene played, and I think the camera pulls back and you actually realize he's actually there off to the side. And I thought, like, where's he coming from? Is that God?
Temossus was the leader of the Thals.
Right.
What's his name?
Temossus.
Timossus.
And then there was Ganatus.
Bloody hell.
And
Gonads and Thomas.
Stoll, Elion, and Zor.
Right. Okay.
Zor.
Oh, so basically Budget Power Rangers got ya.
Yeah. Well, we thought they were like maybe a Duran.
I mean, I have to sit there and say though, I found it. But another thing I found quite interesting was the simple fact that the older man or the leader of the were they the Fallons? Fowls, okay. Sorry, the leaders of the Fallons from Dynasty. Fallon.
The Fallas.
Fowls. So
Fallas.
and I found it like he was very like optimistic. It's like, oh, they're gonna, they're forgiving us. We're all gonna be friends. We're all gonna be singing, we're all gonna be singing like a Coke commercial. I'd like to teach the world to sing, And then they're like, oh yeah, let's go. They're gonna give us food, and and then it's like he's the first one killed, and the other guy's almost like, told you so. Told you. Told you. Can't be trusted.
He goes in the TARDIS and he gets the cavemen to come back and then eat them.
Yeah.
I find the most interesting with the Daleks concept for this story, they're playing possum. They're pretending they're nice, but they have ulterior motives, which is something they don't really have as much later on. They don't just get down to business. Here they're playing the long game.
That's it. Yeah.
I'm quite surprised though that people are falling for that. I mean, these are the people that just radiated you. So why do you think they want to help now? So I thought that's it's a bit like Japan with America. It's like now you want to put Disneyland here. It's like what? After Hiroshima? Are you sure?
To go back also for episode 1, what I quite liked about it is that the Doctor didn't even really want Ian and Barbara to be traveling with them, even though they barged in the last one. They had fun with the cavemen. He still wanted them to go home. He had enough of them.
Yeah, he was like, "I'm fucking sick of you lot."
Yeah, but the thing is, and then he takes the key with him, so they can't return home on their own. Yeah, it's like. I don't know. It's a bit like Scotland.
He can't go back because he'll be faced with child social services.
Yeah, social services.
So not really. You just drop them off and go off without them.
Drop them off somewhere in the 15th century or something.
Yeah. Here you go.
Like the Northern.
Bye, Patricia Rutledge and Mr.
Gotta run,
Mr. Single Teacher Man. Here you go, Mr. Bachelor Man.
I think this was the first time, because obviously it was new for the show. This is the first time they had the food machine as well, because obviously that becomes not as important as the later on series with Doctor Who, but it was nice to know like how the Doctors just like got on in the TARDIS and how they got food weekly.
Yeah.
It's the first time I've seen them eat.
Yeah.
I found it quite shocking that basically they didn't check the planet before they opened the doors and went out into it. Oh, it looks like it's safe. Oh, let's walk out. And it's like, then it's radiation.
Normally he checks the scanner, but I think he wanted them gone so much he was willing to drop them off here.
Yeah,
he wanted to radiate.
Poor Ebenezer. He's not a very nice doctor, actually. He's very. he's very egotistical, isn't he? Everything's got to be his way, and then when it all goes horribly wrong, and then he tries to be the brains behind the operation that's going to save them, and it ends up becoming Patricia Rutledge and Bachelor teacher that kind of saves them.
But you know, from this episode, and people have done many comparisons. When you look at Hartnell's hair in this episode, people have compared him a lot to Christopher Lloyd in Back to the Future.
Right.
So what's Ebenezer Who's real name?
William Hartnell and Doc.
Hartnell.
So people think he looks like Doc Brown in this episode when they look at the photos side by side.
He kind of looks a bit like Peter Cushing's poor brother. As well. He's got that Peter Cushing's poor brother kind of look, the brother that Peter Cushing made it big, and Peter Cushing's brother stayed on the state aid.
Well, that's funny you say Peter Cushing, Keith, because back in the 60s they made live action Doctor Who movies. This was remade, and Daleks Invasion was remade. So 2 episodes got remade with Peter Cushing as a human doctor in the TARDIS.
Yes.
Yeah. We're actually covering those in season 7 when we do the Amicus segments that we're going to do next in season 7. So we're going to be covering those 2 movies. But yeah, so because he does kind of does have that Peter Cushing, but more of the TV version of Peter Cushing, I guess.
Yes.
So, I mean, he's not bad. I think he's good at what he does. He's very hard. He's very hard to assimilate to or like, though. He's not a very likable person.
Well, I think that was the point. Doctor Who was never supposed to be about this magnificent traveler through time and space. He was only supposed to be for history. That's why we had the cave people in the last one. He was just supposed to be a historical person. They tried the Daleks, and it went from there.
Yeah.
Well, I think we do get stuck back in history, don't we? End up in Marco Polo for like 12 episodes soon.
Oh, that's missing.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's one of the missing episodes.
Yes.
Oh, because they had quite a sexy Marco Polo, if I remember seeing from the pictures. Like, guess we'll have to miss out on that.
You can listen to him on the BBC soundtrack.
Right.
Did he talk like this? Did he talk like a BBC? Did he talk like Philip Schofield? Hello. Welcome to ITV Live.
Yes. Well, the best thing about this, it feels like a mini trilogy, because people have said that even when the DVD come out for the Daleks, they triple packed it with the first story in Earthly, this one, and the next one, Edge of Destruction, which is like a mini trilogy.
I mean, for these episodes, I mean, I did enjoy them, actually. I mean, I have difficult with science fiction anyway, or science fiction or fantasy. It's only because some of the names kind of trip me up, and it's like, I just think it's like, oh no, this author's gone through and just put a bunch of letters together and made a word. Yeah. So
I also got to say, I do love in episode 1 is when they're all trying to work it out, Barbara's like fed up. I just want to go home, and Ian's like, what is your sense of adventure?
Yes.
I mean, I can imagine. I mean, I think Barbara's doing fantastically well, because she's ran around with prehistoric people who spoke perfect English, and then she's run around this basically irradiated country, and she hasn't torn a stocking.
No. Well,
and I like the simple fact that she gets a bit flustered and her hair kind of comes slightly over, and then it's like, then when everything's fine, her hair goes back being wrapped up in its toilet paper little.
Yeah, but again, what you're seeing, Keith, is the Daleks at their basic. They used to stun people. They don't even do that anymore. They just kill them now. They just don't do any of that anymore.
Yeah.
And
I thought maybe the reason why I know that they did murder people. I know the folklore a little bit about Daleks only from living here and hearing people talk. And I thought that basically the reason why they were stunning them here is because they needed them for something. They needed the radiation, and they needed this, and they needed Susan to do this and this and this for them, and to trap the other people, and they needed, and that's why I thought they kept them alive, because they were just using them. Yeah. I did find it a bit odd but I'm glad that, but it seemed kind of like Ebenezer Who sent it to be a bit, he didn't. It seemed like the other characters, Teacher and Barbara and Susan, seemed to be more on turn with the Daleks, knowing that what they were up to, and that I found the Doctor seemed to be slightly behind
the time.
the curve here with
Yeah.
them, and I thought that was quite interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I think he also didn't want to be caught that he baited them to be there by taking out his own fluid leak, so he just rolled along with it.
Yeah,
Yeah. Point.
I mean, yeah, I'm glad that Susan had a good sense of direction for able to leave Dalek land and be able to get back to the phone
When she
box.
went through the forest, and found her way back.
Because when they first show up and they're basically overlooking the city, like, oh look, here's this city, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then it's like, so obviously, and it's off in the distance, so it's got to be a fair trek.
Yeah, look
Well,
quite
the phone box.
like probably around about, say,
Because that's why they had to park the
6
TARDIS
kilometers.
in the edge of the forest.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there seemed to be like, there's Dalek land that seems to be very straight, very, I guess, very modernized, and then it seems like the people are living in a more of a, and they're just living in the woods, aren't they?
Yeah.
Do you think they live in the city beforehand, or before the Daleks, or do they live in harmony with the Daleks at one time, or is it just the Daleks
No, I
just
think-
show up and
I don't think so.
do the people out into the yard?
Yes, I think the best thing about these as well as you see the TARDIS, which became like their home, becomes more of a character as it goes on. I think that's how she's treated throughout the history. They build around that. She's more alive as these episodes go on. I mean, yes, he used her in the first episode, and Susan ran into it for that cliffhanger through the forest and all that. But what you'll see, thanks to the whole stuff that started with the Daleks, the next one, Edge of Destruction, it's a main character piece set within her. So you get to see their acting abilities put to strength in the next one.
I mean, I'm quite interested to see how the story pans out. I said before, this is the first time I've watched them, sort of thing. And
Oh, yeah. The
I
Daleks
did.
are very crafty here on Scar O'Keefe. This is a very unique position. They don't normally pretend that they're on the force of good, and if they do, it's very rare for them.
Do we find out what they look like inside their little outfit?
Oh, yes, the casings. Yes, I can't
Yeah.
recall if it's the Daleks because I need to watch the rest of the episodes after we're done here because I was briefly rewatching the first 4. But it's either this or it's their next one, Daleks Invasion. You finally see their little blobs.
Yeah.
Okay, because I know that they take one of them out, and then he kind of crawls into it.
Oh,
Yeah, he crawls into it, and I thought, and he said there's not enough leg room, but they had them all covered up. It's like, oh,
I know. I think, Ian being inside a Dalek in this episode was quite fun because he managed to do the voice really well.
I mean, I thought when they took out the creature that's operating
The machine.
Oh yeah.
machine.
I thought
I really thought they were gonna. I thought they were gonna lift out Warwick Davis. So I thought,
I think they're even born yet.
it's like, oh look, it's little Warwick Davis. because I figured they had to be like, little people, probably, wouldn't they? Because it's
Oh
because
yeah,
if you
but the Daleks.
because if you look at how big around it is, it's not that big around because you can. It looked like the characters could put their arms around it if they needed.
Oh,
Could have been
If they wanted to give a Dalek a hug, they could put their arms around it. So obviously, it's not that big around, and
Yeah,
it's not that
but-
tall. So
For what I recall of the Dalek operators who worked here from the 60s and that, they said it was very uncomfortable. Sometimes you'd be sweating buckets in there, and you'd have to keep getting it off. People would pass out in those things.
Bloody hell.
well, I can imagine. I mean, the materials that they must have
I
used
could
at that
have-
time
yeah,
would
must have
probably
been.
not be the materials that we have today. It's a bit like
Especially under the studio
Yeah.
lights, that would have been
imagine,
hard.
But
Well,
the
it's a bit
Dalek
like looking-
operators now, they're not on tricycles. They're just remote controlled.
Even
Yeah.
the Cybermen, I heard that there's like a Phillips screw that they screw the mask in,
Yeah.
and that's it. If they want to go to the toilet, they have to get someone to get a screwdriver out.
it's a bit like
Not a sonic
well, I
one.
mean, yeah, I can imagine though. I mean, even if you look at from 1989 to today, if you look at the Batman outfit from 1989 from Tim
Yeah.
Burton's, and the Batman today, when Michael Keaton was in that Batman outfit, he couldn't go to the bathroom. He pretty much had to have 5 or 6 people help him because of the way the suits were.
Yeah.
And of course, Christian Bale didn't have that problem with the new one because of the materials are different nowadays. And
I
stuff
think
like that,
he had to get it changed though, because I think something went wrong with the masks, and that's why he had it changed for the next film.
Right.
Yeah. So if you look at, so now here we got something like 20 years before that, 25 years before that, you know, can you imagine what materials they were using at that time, sort of thing. So
yeah, and for
probably
what
not
you've seen, I know it's black and
molded
white, the Daleks,
plastic.
but as they go on, they keep redesigning them for each episode. So the more it went to color, they adapted with the times.
Yeah. They get more elaborate designs around where the gun and the arm is. You know, it gets more like.
Have they appeared in the newer episodes, like from 2020
Yes,
onwards?
they're appearing next week for Jodie's last. They're all back to bronze at the minute.
No,
Okay.
good.
Are they using real machines, or are they CGIing them?
Oh no, they're still operators inside, but they're not on tricycles.
No.
Yeah.
But Craig and I saw it at Dalek in Warren Street, didn't we, Craig?
Oh yeah,
We went past a small sort of like film studio, like, and they had one in the window. I couldn't believe it. You know, we went back and we were looking through the window, and the guy said, "Do you want to come in?" And we said, "Yeah, we'd love to." You know, so we're standing next to this iconic Dalek. What was it using, Craig? Because you kind of recognized there's some series that you said, "I think I've seen these ones," or this make, you know.
The Genesis Arc episode.
Right, there you go. You know, so there it was.
Yeah,
it was about 6 foot. Yeah.
Oh yeah, so because Keith, when he gets around to the Moffat era, he'll see these big-sized Daleks, which people kept calling the Power Rangers or Skittle Daleks.
Oh yeah, the Pepper Pots. The Teletubbies.
Bigger is better.
But then they get designated their own ranks. I mean, they're the Dalek Supreme. As it goes on, they have an Emperor. They have quite a few ranks as the years went on.
Yeah, that's right.
David met Davros, didn't you?
I met Davros, and he told me to get out.
Yeah, that was like time
pretty bad. Like
time fracture. That was hilarious.
Yes. Yes. Oh, yes. For Keith, who won't know who he is yet, because when they get to the Fourth Doctor era, you get the origins of where it all began for them. So they have a prequel to this in the Fourth Doctor era, which you get to meet their creator, Davros.
Yeah, Davros is amazing.
But who was Davros? Was he like the leader or something? He's mad scientist.
Experiments on himself.
Basically, there was a lab explosion. He went kaboom when he was younger, and then he ended up being all crusted like Palpatine in a wheelchair.
Right. Okay. Pretty nasty. Pretty nasty.
Are you looking for a graphic design that will take you to the next level? Or something that shows confidence within a growing market to help you stand out amongst the crowd? Amazing Designs gives consistent and on-brand designs whether you are looking for something conservative or you want to let your imagination soar. They bring professionalism to a high standard, and they are able to visualize your ideas and give them that extra edge. Working one-on-one with their designers will give you a design that will live up to your expectations and more. Affordable, expert designs for all occasions, whether it's logos, brochures, or whatever you can dream of. Amazing Designs is your to-go place for creativity and hands-on expertise. Try Amazing Designs today. Contact them via email at amazingdesigns505@gmail.com. That's amazingdesigns505@gmail.com, or reach out by phone at country code 1-805-203-0427. We love them so much here at the Literary License Podcast that we use them ourselves.
But I'd rather be different than be the same.
So I guess what we'll do is, does anyone want to say, let's talk about who's your favorite character and least favorite character of this block?
What do you think?
Start with you, Matthew.
Matthew.
Oh, I have to say, it's very hard for me to say who's the worst. I'd have to say that it was that Thal was the worst one, the one that kept like saying, "I told you so," like he was really in everyone's faces, like, "You should not trust the Daleks" and all that. And it's like, yes, we know, we know it.
Is he the dark-haired gay one that kept like doing everything very suggestively over that one?
The one that was in Duran Duran. Yeah.
Well, yes.
The one they
I
like.
didn't like it because it was like everyone trying to be so cheerful, and he was just very down. He was
negative and sort of like, pessimistic.
But for me, I think the best character has to be. I think it was still Susan for me, because for Carol Ann Ford to like go into this position after the last week, she just seemed like she'd come more into her own as Susan. It seemed like she was developing a little bit more of independence. She was still skeptical of being on her own, but I just loved that Carol Ann was growing with the role as it went on weekly.
And what about yourself, David?
Yeah, I just think, well, as I said, William Hartnell's brilliant. But when I look back now, after 60 odd years of sort of first time I saw it, it's like I'm thinking like, yeah, you're right. He was a little bit mad, the first Doctor, a little bit, kind of sort of Alzheimer's in a sense. He seemed to be forgetting things all the time. But I think my favorite character was probably Susan, Carol Ann Ford, and I think the least favorite character was probably Ian. For me, I think,
Yeah. And what about yourself, Craig?
I liked Ian's character. I think he sort of developed more. He sort of stood his ground, and
True.
I think in one of the scenes he hit one of the Thals.
Yeah.
Or vice versa.
It was like
and then I thought, oh, good, if Ian's actually done something and he's standing his ground, and got more of an emotional connection to him just being like a bystander who's just lost in the TARDIS sort of thing. And I just thought, now he's an established part of the crew now, and he's on an alien world and he's accepting it. But I like Barbara as well. I kind of felt for them, especially when I thought they were going to go back to the TARDIS and just go on their merry way, and then you realise by the ambush episode, you realise that Ian left the part with the Daleks, and now they're stuck and they have to go back into the dangerous parts of the city, and I thought, well, that's when I thought it was quite good.
And who's your least favorite character?
No, I liked even Barbara. I liked Barbara when she was in peril and stuff. That was quite good, I can't really put my finger on a least favorite for this one. They all seem to be like a team, and they're very posh. Everyone's very posh. Even the Thals.
I mean, my favorite character, I think I'd say would be Susan. I didn't really care too much for the Raquel Welch wannabe, the fallow woman there. That kind of I don't know. Maybe if she wore like a little fur bikini, I might have got more into her or something. But I thought she was okay. But she's kind of like just there. And I think she's gonna. I think in the later episodes, probably part 2, the Daleks, which we'll cover next month, she probably plays a bigger role. But at the moment, she just kind of like you don't know that she's just kind of like Smurfette among the Smurfs. It's like she's the one that's going to be carrying the baby, the family line further along. She's the only woman, isn't she? So unless she's barren from all the radiation, which is possible. But yeah, she's the only one that didn't strike me. I quite liked everyone else. So, I quite like, Ebenezer Who kind of irritates me a little bit, but I think that's what that's what they're going for. So that's why I don't.
Yes, because as it goes on, Keith, he does start to mellow. It was, as I say, it was never supposed to be this grumpy, like, old bloke you're supposed to be a fan of. You were supposed to come on this historical tour, and that was it. But as time went on, when they restructured it into science fiction, they knew it would sell more, like, to make him more of a warming figure. And when it gets to the next series, you could tell he's completely mellowed at that point. He's starting to get there.
I mean, I like that Susan calls him out. I like that aspect of it, which is, I mean, from 1964 for, independent woman or an independent girl, which she is. I mean, I'm not quite sure how old she's supposed to be here. Obviously, school age about 16, maybe 17, 16.
Yeah, she's supposed to be a teenager, but because she's from another world, she's about let's say over 500.
Yeah. Well, I think she's probably, she's obviously a woman because she's got breasts and stuff. So I mean, she's probably a 19 or 20-year-old playing a 16-year-old probably.
Yeah.
That's what they did in those days, weren't they? They're always like, it's like Riverdale. It's like they're all in high school. Yay! It's like you're all like, or Grease when they're all in their 40s. That's but yeah, so I think, but for Susan's character to be so spiky and so independent, and then call her grandfather out, because at this point it's her grandfather, isn't it? So, and she calls him out, and I thought that's quite interesting.
You can take that from the human influence of Barbara and Ian being around her, because I think before then she would, just like how you saw in episode 1 with the Keith people, she'd always go to him. Nobody else mattered. It was her and her grandfather. Now she's standing out on her own because of her 2 teachers being with her.
I also think that I think Susan has an understanding as well that her grandfather looks at these 2 humans as just stupid meat suits, basically, talking monkeys, basically, from the planet Earth. Because I think he thinks he's more evolved than they are.
Sure.
Where Susan's actually realizing they're quite intelligent in their own right.
And even though, Keith, they're probably a lot older physically than Ian and Barbara, she's actually looks younger than both of them. So I think that's why they're playing into them being all their relative ages.
Yeah, but Ian and Barbara seem to have a bit more common sense than Ebenezer Who. So, when it comes to like, how to get out of the situation and stuff like this, okay, he's quite good about the science part of it. But to get them out, I mean, so far to get them out of all the hassles and all the troubles that they've had, it's been Barbara and Ian's who's gotten them out of all their difficulties, all their trap scenarios so far. It hasn't been Ebenezer Who at all. All he's done is talked about the science about, this is how they work, and this is how they work, and this is how this happens, and I'll give you the science, and you guys can work out how to get out of the situation. It's kind of been that way so far.
Because I think that's what plays into the Doctor, is that he was a scientific being, but he was not with the universe. This is basically how it all starts. They've always said, since the whole thing that happened here on Skara with the Daleks, that's when he started to get with it more.
Right.
Yeah, I just thought that basically he thought, I'll let you guys get us out of the situation. That way, if you fail, it's not going to be my fault. It's your fault.
Yeah, basically.
I don't take any of the responsibility. You do all the work.
Basically,
and then when you get us out of this situation, I'll explain scientifically how you've done this, and I'll take the credit. But if you don't, that's how I'm picking up on it at the moment. So it's like, okay.
So if a file tripped over a Dalek, he'd say it's not his aisle, nothing to do with him.
Yeah, he's kind of person that basically
skills like that.
Like if they weren't able to capture the Dalek and basically get themselves out of the situation, and that didn't work, he would just be at the sidelines like, I could have told you that was going to work if it didn't work. I could have told you that.
Well, that's what the Doctor does.
That was scientifically impossible. You should have asked me first.
Yes.
So,
I always makes me laugh when he calls him like, "Oh, hello, my dear boy," and all that. Even though Ian's a lot older than a boy, he keeps calling him that.
Yes.
I think that has a lot to do with like English, old English films. Like if you look at Mr. Chips and all those old English films at that time, when you ever got like the old general or the older English guys, like, oh right, old boy, and it's always be like someone who's like 5 years younger than they are. It's like, it's always, could they, it's like, and I think I'm not quite sure why that is, but I think that's the whole thing about, I'm above you, so you're like, oh boy, you be in your 40s and the guy's like in his 60s. Oh, it's a way of like talking down to that person to a way, show you a nice familiar way. It's like I'm still above you and still got power over you.
Yes. It's that class system through there, like, for sure.
Yeah, because I noticed that a lot in a lot of old English films, Private Jane Brody, Matter of Life and Death, the old Prime Minister films and stuff like that. There's a lot of that that goes on there. Or even Lady Vanishes. You get a lot of that in Alfred Hitchcock's Lady Vanishes, which is his last film that he made here. So So,
Yeah, you're right. You know, that's a good point. So it's like a bit like Epson and all, you know, like, you know, the doll's house, terrible, you know, how he treats her, like, you know, but there's always somebody has to have kind of power over someone to make them feel better, you know. It's that arrogance gone crazy. But there is that thing about the Englishness, you know, it's very you know, putting people into box, pigeonholing people all the time.
And this was the time when he didn't have companions, he had assistants.
Assistants, right?
Yeah,
well,
they weren't really a team at this point. It was
No.
still like finding it all out. Like,
Yeah.
how are you going to cope with like these people he's kidnapped?
well, I also find that it's kind of weird with him in a way as well, because here he has a TARDIS. This is his home, his machine, his ship. It's his life.
Yeah.
And he really doesn't know how to navigate it properly, does he? Because he's like, first thing, like, now we're in this district. So yeah.
That's
So I guess
it's not even his home. He stole it.
did he? Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Wow.
Oh, okay. Well, that makes
The
sense.
plot
Then.
thickens.
Thieving bastard.
Yeah. So what is it?
Because at the moment it feels like the Orville. It's like we don't know where we're going.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense now. Okay,
Because as it goes on, as the years go on, they build around that he just ran away from home and he just stole the TARDIS, and that's why he's never been able to fly it properly. They've tried to explain in the newer series, oh, she flies him, not the other way around.
Some men like to be flown by her. So,
Yeah. Oh, matron. Ooh. Yeah. Carry on, Doctor would have been probably better. Oh, matron, let's get in the TARDIS. Yes.
Yeah.
You know.
So out of these four episodes, the Dead Planet, the Survivors, the Escape, and the Ambush, is there any one of these episodes you think was better put together than the others, or do you think they're all pretty much?
I think the very first one was brilliant.
That foreboding piano
because
sound.
it was very a horror style episode, because you didn't know where it was all going, and then when it ended on that scream with Barbara with the thing we now know as the Daleks, it really was setting up for something which has held for nearly 60 years now.
Absolutely, yeah. Wow. Suspense, you know, interest, you know, cultural references, showing people's different sort of personality, you know, just really cool, you know. And like
it's a very good
60s, it was stepped out of it in some way, you know.
Yeah, it was a very good setup episode, because they were still not sure whether they wanted to continue traveling together or not before that whole thing in the Dalek City.
Yeah. Wow.
I mean, I find it quite interesting that you got something that's quite iconic as the Daleks, making it in the second storyline for the series, because normally these kind of iconic things don't really happen until like somewhere in the middle of a season. You know what I mean? You get to slow build, which they seem to find their stride quite quickly, which is quite amazing when you look at most shows.
What happened was they were going to test this out, testing the waters to see, right, we've done a historical, let's try something different. And if it doesn't work, we'll go back to pure historicals. And the Daleks was way more loved than that first episode with the cavemen. So that's why it all changed. If it weren't for the Daleks, Doctor Who would be purely historical. It wouldn't last long.
That long, yeah. It's almost like
and the movies just blew it out of the park.
Oh well, yeah, you know, the movies, the first movie
that must have cemented it.
But it's almost like they expected you just to think this is iconic. It's already in the consciousness, even though it's just been viewed for the first time. It's like, oh, you stupid! You have to accept this is iconic, and that's what it is.
The amount of Doctor Who actors or people in general have always said they used to hide behind the sofa because of the Daleks, because of that very first story.
Yeah, well, yeah, there you go. So that sort of you know, urban legend, or that sort of like reference started from that, you know, the beginning of that. It's more like the Cybermen. I think that was a bit more scarier. You know,
so when Doctor Who aired in December, just before Christmas, so I guess everyone's there. Do you remember what day of the week that was on?
Flipping heck. It might have been a Thursday or a Friday.
Was it?
I'm- I'm
Okay.
sure
Was it like prime time, or was it like during the family hour, or was it on?
If I remember rightly, I think it was about 5:30.
Okay, so it was like, so it was almost like for the children programming almost.
Yeah,
then.
yeah.
Okay.
That's interesting.
Uh,
It's pretty scary, like, really, when you think, even for
Well,
adults, at the time.
Okay, well, that gives us the reason why we have a tutorial how to make mud from bottom of someone's shoes. So, because there
Yeah.
seem to be some,
Yeah, well,
because there also seems to be like this kind of small learning thing that they're trying to weave in at the moment, sort of
Yeah.
thing. Like we
Yeah.
get it with the prehistoric man, and then we got a couple things here about what radiation can do to you, like on a children's level, not children's level, like a young adult level, like radiation can do. And there's like a little bit of an explanation going on about certain
And then
things.
when you get
that,
on to
like,
the next one, Edge of Destruction, it's very much like it's a what if there could be a stage play for Doctor Who. And I've always viewed Edge of Destruction because it's a full character piece. There is so much suspense with the actors and their performances. It's just incredible how they managed to fit it in as a filler episode.
Yeah, and sort of like shoot it in such a small area in a sense, because it's almost like it's either the TARDIS. There's very few outside shots apart from when they go to the planet, But the thing is, like, I mean, the shots in the TARDIS, like you said, like you're saying, it's very intense, almost claustrophobic.
Yeah.
For me, I think one of the best shots of here, because I rewatched The Magician's Apprentice the other day, and I have to say, seeing the original shot of Skaro and the new shot, it's still amazing to watch how they did the planet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're right. For the time and all, no CGI, like it was all, was it made to paint sort of backgrounds?
Yeah.
Wow, what a thing to work on, though,
Yeah.
And
So giving this a 5-star rating out of giving it a 5-star rating, what rating would you give these 4 episodes then? Starting with you, Craig.
I'll give it a 5 because it set the tone and it exploded Dalek
mythology
into cult TV and the British institution that it is now.
Absolutely.
Without this episode, and it launched Doctor Who into something
put them on the map.
massive.
Absolutely.
And what about yourself, David?
Yeah, I'll agree with Craig, like all them things, and also just like everything about it was like different, there was no references to any other show at the time because it was totally unique and sort of like contained within itself. And the music, being a musician, the music was iconic.
Yeah, really
Everyone
nice.
remembers that riff,
Yeah.
And it's just beautiful, sticks in your mind. It's almost like Batman, another iconic, sort of showpiece. I think the whole thing, definitely a 5.
What about yourself, Matthew?
Well, I have to say, judging the episodes individually, it's just amazing. Well, I don't know if we've talked about them yet from episode 1, but for this, the radiophonic workshop who made the sound effects, the music, the costumes, everything from the Daleks is absolutely breathtaking because it was a game changer for the industry.
Yes.
And when you look at these 4 episodes, 1963 to 64, you just think, wow. To me, it's a solid 5 because this is what established the Dalek mania, the Dalek threats. And if it hadn't been for this story being a success, the Daleks would have been abandoned and people would only talk about them as, there should have been more for years as a one-time villain. I think it did its job. The cast and crew were amazing. The files, they just made me laugh throughout the episode because they're like, oh, I'm not sure who's good. I'm not sure who's evil. Should we push this button? Should we push this thing over? I have to say, if you're brand new to Doctor Who and you want to rate an essential Dalek story, start here with the beginning of their journey because you get them at their very basic before you see the menaces and the horrors they become later on.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm going to give it a 5-star rating because it kind of, I don't have any history of Doctor Who, as you probably heard from the previous episode we did from Doctor Who. But saying that, it kind of reminded me of, it gave me that Twilight Zone vibe, which I quite like. I'm a huge Twilight Zone fan from the 60s. And I quite like that I thought that the story was tight. There wasn't a lot of fluffing around doing this and that and just filling up space, because they let, like you do get in like the beginning of some series, like we got in the first 4 episodes, the previous storyline, but there's a lot of fluffing about that. It's like you're kind of come on, move on with it, and there was none of that here, and I thought it was very tightly done.
But can I just say off to keep quickly, for a 60 story, that was 7 parts for one overall episode, really, for the Daleks. It's really fast paced for its time, something that Doctor Who is now. So it's incredible how they managed to make it as quick paced as it was.
Yeah.
And such a quick time, because normally it takes a while for a new show to find its footing, and they found it quite quickly. So
yeah, well, I mean,
5 stars.
Like Craig said, it jumped from, what was it, Craig, 6 million to 10 million in the space of like 3 months. That's big viewing sort of jump.
3 weeks.
In 3 weeks. Wow,
Yeah.
So it shows you that people were hungry for something different,
Well, this brings us to the end of the Literary License podcast. We'll be covering next month, our Doctor Who will be the Daleks Part 2, which will be covering episodes 5 through 7, which will include the expedition, the ordeal, and the rescue. Right. And of course, next week we'll be covering our 2-for-1, which will be our remake, which will be The Mummy from 1932 and The Mummy from 1999. Our M&M, or Monsters and Madmen episode, will cover The Extraordinary Adventures of Adele Black-Sec, directed by Luc Besson, from 2010, and Abbott Costello Meet the Mummy from 1955. Our next Books to Screen, America Goes Dark, will be Gone Girl by Gillian Flynn, and the film, directed by David Fincher, starring Rosamund Pike and Ben Affleck. And of course, we'll be continuing our Batman episodes, which will also be including these episodes, which will be a Clown, Two-Face Part 1 and Part 2, and It's Never Too Late. So it's good night for myself, and good night, Craig.
Good night, everybody. And just for the Whovians out there, check out the Doctor Who Appreciation Society magazine, Cosmic Mask. I think it's the next edition. We've got an article in there, so you can see me with the Black Dalek. There's Matt Rose with Peter Davison. There's pictures of Keith. And just check it out if you want to check it out. The Doctor Who Appreciation Society.
There you go. Wow.
Good night, David.
Yeah. Well, if the Daleks had an Instagram page, I'd definitely be a fan with them. But thank you and good night, and thank the universe for sending us the Daleks and Doctor Who.
They have sent us a Dalek. I think it's called Liz Truss.
Exterminate!
And Jeremy Hunt. Good night to yourself, Matthew.
I'm sorry. I was just trying to compose myself after that. Yes. Good night, good evening, and don't be exterminated before the next one, okay? Because we need you for the next one.
And it's good night for myself, and we'll see you next week for The Mummy from 1932 and The Mummy remake of 1999. Good night.